Thank you, Secretary General, for that most helpful briefing. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as Secretary of State of the United States. And I thank you for the opportunity to address the Security Council. According to UN Security Council Resolution 2321, a stated objective of this Council is North Korea's abandonment of its nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs. For the past 20 years, well-intentioned diplomatic efforts to halt these programs have failed. It is only by first dismantling them that there can be peace, stability, and economic prosperity for all of Northeast Asia. With each successive detonation and missile test, North Korea pushes Northeast Asia and the world closer to instability and broader conflict. The threat of a North Korean nuclear attack on Seoul or Tokyo is real, and it is likely only a matter of time before North Korea develops the capability to strike the U.S. mainland. Indeed, the DPRK has repeatedly claimed it plans to conduct such a strike. Given that rhetoric, the United States cannot idly stand by, nor can other members of this Council who are within striking distance of North Korean missiles. Having for years displayed a pattern of behavior that defies multiple UN Security Council resolutions, including 2321 and 2270, and erodes global progress on nuclear nonproliferation, there's no reason to think that North Korea will change its behavior under the current multilateral sanctions framework. For too long, the international community has been reactive in addressing North Korea. Those days must come to an end. Failing to act now on the most pressing security issue in the world may bring catastrophic consequences. We have said this before, and it bears repeating. The policy of strategic patience is over. Additional patience will only mean acceptance of a nuclear North Korea. The more we bide our time, the sooner we will run out of it. In light of the growing threat, the time has come for all of us to put new pressure on North Korea to abandon its dangerous path. I urge this Council to act before North Korea does. We must work together to adopt a new approach and impose increased diplomatic and economic pressures on the North Korean regime. The new campaign the United States is embarking on is driven by our own national security considerations, and it is welcomed by many nations who are concerned for their own security and question why North Korea clings to nuclear capabilities for which it has no need. Our goal is not regime change, nor do we desire to threaten the North Korean people or destabilize the Asia-Pacific region. Over the years, we have withdrawn our own nuclear weapons from South Korea and offered aid to North Korea as proof of our intent to de-escalate the situation and normalize relations. Since 1995, the United States has provided over $1.3 billion in aid to North Korea, and we look forward to resuming our contributions once the DPRK begins to dismantle its nuclear weapons and missile technology programs. The DPRK, for its own sake, must dismantle its nuclear missile programs if it wants to achieve the security, economic development, and international recognition that it seeks. North Korea must understand that respect will never follow recklessness. North Korea must take concrete steps to reduce the threat that its illegal weapons programs pose to the United States and our allies before we can even consider talks. I propose all nations take these three actions beginning today. First, we call on UN member states to fully implement the commitments they have made regarding North Korea. This includes all measures required in Resolutions 2321 and 2270. Those nations which have not fully enforced these resolutions fully discredit this body. Second, we call on countries to suspend or downgrade diplomatic relations with North Korea. North Korea exploits its diplomatic privileges to fund its illicit nuclear and missile technology programs, and constraining its diplomatic activity will cut off a flow of needed resources. In light of North Korea's recent actions, normal relations with the DPRK are simply not acceptable. Third, we must increase North Korea's financial isolation. We must levy new sanctions on DPRK entities and individuals supporting its weapons and missile programs and tighten those that are already in place. The United States also would much prefer countries and people in question to own up to their lapses and correct their behavior themselves. But we will not hesitate to sanction third country entities and individuals supporting the DPRK's illegal activities. We must bring maximum economic pressure by severing trade relationships that directly fund the DPRK's nuclear and missile program. I call on the international community to suspend the flow of North Korean guest workers and to impose bans on North Korean imports, especially coal. We must all do our share, but China, accounting for 90% of North Korean trade, China alone has economic leverage over Pyongyang that is unique, and its role is therefore particularly important. The U.S. and China have held very productive exchanges on this issue, and we look forward to further actions that build on what China has already done. Lastly, as we have said before, all options for responding to future provocation must remain on the table. Diplomatic and financial levers of power will be backed up by a willingness to counteract North Korean aggression with military action, if necessary. We much prefer a negotiated solution to this problem, but we are committed to defending ourselves and our allies against North Korean aggression. This new pressure campaign will be swiftly implemented and painful to North Korean interest. I realize some nations for which a relationship with North Korea has been in some ways a net positive may be disinclined to implement the measures of pressure on North Korea. But the catastrophic effects of a North Korean nuclear strike outweigh any economic benefits. We must be willing to face the hard truths and make hard choices right now to prevent disastrous outcomes in the future. Business as usual is not an option. There's also a moral dimension to this problem. Countries must know by now that helping the North Korean regime means enabling cruelty and suffering. North Korea feeds billions of dollars into a nuclear program it does not need while its own people starve. The regime's pursuit of nuclear weapons does not serve its own national security or the well-being of a people trapped in tyranny. I ask the community of nations to help us preserve security and protect human dignity. In one of my first trips as America's Secretary of State, I looked across the DMZ at the haunted land of North Korea. Beyond the border is a nation of sorrow, frozen in time. While the world sees the gleaming buildings of Pyongyang, the blight of oppression and starvation has swept this land for over 60 years. But even though the present condition of that country is bleak, the United States believes in a future for North Korea. These first steps toward a more hopeful future will happen most quickly if other stakeholders in the region and the global security join us. For years, North Korea has been dictating the terms of its dangerous course of action. It is time for us to retake control of the situation. We ask the members of this Council and all other partners to implement a new strategy to denuclearize North Korea. Thank you. I resume my function now as President of the Council. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Fumio Kishida, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to you for convening this timely meeting on the denuclearization of North Korea. I would also like to thank Secretary General Guterres for his informative briefing. Mr. President, the threat posed by North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile development has reached a new level. Since January 2016 alone, it has conducted 2 nuclear tests and at least 30 ballistic missile launches. This threat is not just hypothetical. For ordinary citizens, it is only too real. On 6th of March, North Korea launched 4 ballistic missiles, 3 of which landed within Japan's exclusive economic zone. This was no advance notice, and the consequence of these reckless launches could have been catastrophic for innocent fishing boats, sea vessels, and aircrafts. These launches are intentionally meant to be a provocation, as evidenced by North Korea media reports, which states that the North Korean units responsible for striking U.S. bases in Japan in contingencies were involved. It is therefore increasingly important for countries in the region to strengthen deterrence to ensure these peace and security. Mr. President, now is good time to recall the commitments North Korea has made on denuclearization in the past. In 2005, North Korea, together with China, Japan, the Republic of Korea, the Russian Federation, and the United States, quote, unanimously reaffirmed that the goal of the 6-party talks in the verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula in peaceful manner, end of quote, in 6-party talks joint statement. All parties expect North Korea remain commitment to this position. There is no doubt that dialogue is necessary to achieve the peaceful denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. However, under the current situation, where North Korea continues to advance its nuclear and ballistic missile programs, meaningful dialogue is clearly not possible. In order to bring North Korea back to the negotiating table, the international community must send a strong message that provocation comes at a high price and that no bright future awaits North Korea without its denuclearization. With this in mind, Japan calls on all member states to increase pressure on North Korea through rigorous and thorough implementation of relevant Security Council resolutions. Japan has been implementing additional measures against North Korea, which go beyond the obligations under the Security Council resolutions to severely restrict the flow of people, goods, and funds, including the total ban of exports and imports. Japan has also actively assisted capacity building for ASEAN countries in order to enhance the effectiveness of the Security Council resolution. No state should allow itself to become a loophole in the North Korea sanctions regime. Japan calls on all member states which have not already done so to submit national implementation reports to the North Korea sanctions committees as required by Security Council resolution. Any further provocation, including nuclear tests, should be met promptly by an even more stringent resolution by Security Council. Mr. President, North Korea has defiantly dismissed Security Council resolution as illegal, and so we refuse to be bound by these obligations. This has real humanitarian consequences. The regime's pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missile development comes at the expense of the welfare and basic needs of the people in North Korea. These people include international abductees. In the past, North Korean agents infiltrated Japan and abducted a number of Japanese citizens, including a girl as young as 13 years old. Abductees' futures have been stolen and their families torn apart. Japan attaches the utmost importance to the abductions issue, which undermines the sovereignty of Japan and casts fear over the lives of our citizens. Victims of abduction are not limited to Japanese citizens. This is a universal issue facing the international community and a violation of fundamental human rights. In urging North Korea to take concrete action on this issue, Japan asks for the international community's support and understanding. Mr. President, regrettably, the possibility of further provocations by North Korea is high. The Council must send a clear message that such actions will only lead to more rigorous responses from international community. Japan strongly urged North Korea to demonstrate its seriousness as well as concrete actions on denuclearization. Japan looks forward to continuing to work closely with all of our colleagues here today on this matter. I thank you, Mr. President.
Now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Mancur Ndai, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Senegalese abroad of Senegal.
Merci bien, Monsieur le Secrétaire d'État, Président du Conseil
Thank
de
you,
sécurité,
Secretary of State and President of the Security Council,
des
the
Nations
Secretary
Unies,
General
Mesdames et
of the United
Messieurs,
Nations,
chers collègues, Mesdames et Messieurs
colleagues,
les ambassadeurs,
ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen.
je voudrais tout d'abord, Monsieur
First
le
of all,
Président,
Mr. President,
vous
I
remercier
would
d'avoir
like to
pris
thank you for
l'initiative
having taken the
d'organiser ce
initiative to
débat
organize this debate
sur l'importante
on the
question de
important
la
issue
non-prolifération
of nuclear
nucléaire.
non-proliferation.
Et remerciements
I would also like
également à
to
Monsieur
thank
Antonio
Mr.
Guterres,
Antonio
Secrétaire
Guterres,
général des
Secretary
Nations
General
Unies,
of the
dont la
United
déclaration a
Nations,
permis
whose
d'éclairer
statement
nos
has made
travaux
it
et
possible to
d'enrichir
enlighten our
nos
work
discussions.
and to enrich our discussions.
Monsieur le Président du Conseil,
Sir,
la question du désarmement
the question
nucléaire
of nuclear
figure
disarmament
parmi les
is
priorités du monde.
among the
Comme
global
en illustre
priorities,
la première
as you
résolution
see in the
adoptée
first resolution
en janvier
adopted in
1946
January
de l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies,
1946
qui visait déjà
of the United Nations General Assembly, which aimed to eradicate all atomic bombs, convinced of the risk that it poses due to the risk for humankind. Our country has always argued in favor of the total eradication of nuclear activities for military purposes, and not only its simple reduction.
En effet, l'éradication
Indeed,
totale
the
est le
total
seul moyen
eradication is
de
the only way
préserver
of
le
preserving the
monde
world
de la dévastation
and
qui
protecting it
découlerait
from
de
the devastation
l'utilisation
that would
des
stem
armes
from the
nucléaires.
use of nuclear weapons.
Elle seule est à même de
Only this
garantir
would be in a
la
position
survie de
to
notre
guarantee the
planète
survival of our
et
planet
d'assurer
and to
l'avenir des
assure the
générations
future,
présentes
present
et
and
futures
future
en
generations,
leur offrant de vivre
allowing them
non
not to
pas
live
dans
with
la
the
peur
fear
de
of
la
an explosion
détonation
of
de
an
bombes
atomic bomb,
atomiques,
but
mais
rather
dans un
in a
monde
world
libéré de
free
la
from the
hantise
specter
d'une
of
catastrophe
thermonuclear
thermonucléaire.
disaster.
À ces menaces clairement
Along with these
identifiées,
clearly
Monsieur
identified
le Président,
threats,
l'on peut
sir,
ajouter
we can add as well the
l'augmentation des
increase
risques de prolifération
in the
liés
risk
aux
of
acteurs non étatiques
proliferation
du
linked
fait de la
to
montée du
non-state actors
terrorisme
due to
et
the
des
rise of
nouveaux risques
terrorism, as
d'utilisation
well as
à
the
mauvais
new
escient
danger posed
des
by
avancées
the
rapides de
wrongful
la
use
science, des
of
technologies et du
rapid
commerce
progress in
international.
science,
C'est à la
technology,
lumière de
and
tous ces
international
enjeux que
trade.
mon pays a
It's in the light of all
condamné
these challenges
avec la
that my
plus grande
country has
fermeté
condemned with the
l'essai
greatest
nucléaire effectué
firmness
par la République populaire
the nuclear
démocratique
test
de
carried
Corée
out by
le 6
the
janvier 2016
DPRK
et les
in
différents tirs de
January
missiles
2016,
balistiques
as well as the different
constitutifs de
ballistic
violations
missile launches, which are serious violations of that country's international obligations under Resolutions 1718 of 2006, 1874 of 2009, 2087 of 2013, 2094 of 2013, 2270 of 2016, and 2321 of the Security Council. These actions clearly reveal the pursuit by DPRK of its programs in the area of nuclear weapons and missile production and its determination to acquire a nuclear force. This is not only a threat for the population on the peninsula and in the region, but also a grave violation of the non-proliferation regime. Senegal urgently calls upon the DPRK to respect its international obligations.
Monsieur le Président, en 2016, le Conseil de sécurité a adopté à l'unanimité deux résolutions, 2270 du 2 mars et 2321 du 30 novembre, renforçant substantiellement les sanctions déjà en vigueur contre Pyongyang. Cependant, force est de constater que ces mesures cumulées à celles imposées unilatéralement par certains pays n'ont toujours pas réussi à ramener ce pays à la récipience et à abandonner ainsi son ambition nucléaire militaire. En vérité, toutes ces sanctions n'ont pas empêché l'amélioration progressive et l'expansion des capacités nucléaires et des missiles balistiques de la République du Corée, du Corée du Nord qui continue de violer de manière flagrante les résolutions et les demandes répétées du Conseil de sécurité. En effet, le Sénégal a ratifié les principaux instruments qui fondent le régime international sur la non-prolifération et la sécurité nucléaire et respecte également les obligations des États découlant de la résolution 1540 2004 du Conseil de sécurité dont nous célébrons aujourd'hui le 13e anniversaire. De même, le président du Sénégal a présenté son rapport sur l'application des dispositions de résolution 1874, 2094 et 2270. Mon pays est en train de finaliser son rapport sur la résolution 2321 qu'il compte faire parvenir au président du comité incessamment. Monsieur le Président, il importe aujourd'hui d'insister pour que la Corée respecte ses obligations. Je voudrais encore une fois, Monsieur le Président, avant de conclure mon propos, vous redire notre profonde gratitude pour votre engagement et celui de notre pays de contribuer par le dialogue et par la concertation diplomatique à la recherche d'une solution politique négociée aux crises qui perturbent la marche normale du monde. Mon pays et son président saluent vos efforts et votre engagement pour ensemble trouver les compromis historiques nécessaires pour mettre fin aux menaces graves que constituent les actes posés par la République démocratique de Corée. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Ndai for his statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Yang Yi, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. President, the continued escalation of tensions on the Korean Peninsula in the recent period has caused widespread concerns and worries of the international community. If the issue of the peninsula fails to be put under effective control, and in the case of unexpected events, the situation is highly likely to take a drastic turn for the worse and spiral out of control. And there is no lack of such painful lessons in history, and we must put it on high alert. In view of this, China believes today's meeting of the Council is necessary. And we thank Secretary General Guterres for his briefing to the Council. We hope the parties form consensus on more strictly and fully implementing DPRK-related Secret Council resolutions, intensifying efforts to promote peace talks, and bringing the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula back to the track of a negotiated solution. China's position regarding the nuclear issue on the peninsula is clear-cut. No matter how the situation may change, we must stick to the following two basic directions. First, we must stay committed to the goal of denuclearization. Denuclearization is a basic precondition for long-term peace and stability on the peninsula, and what we must accomplish to safeguard the international nuclear non-proliferation regime. No matter what happens, we should never waver in our commitment to this goal. To this end, China's position of opposing the DPRK's research, development, and possession of nuclear weapons remains rock firm. We urge the DPRK to stop its nuclear and missile development activities, come back to its commitment of denuclearization and all its denuclearization obligations. Meanwhile, we also call on other parties concerned to demonstrate the political wisdom, make a political decision, and work constructively together toward the denuclearization of the peninsula. Second, we must stay committed to the path of dialogue and negotiation. The use of force does not solve differences, it will only lead to bigger disasters. As the only way out, dialogue and negotiation also represent the sensible choice for all parties.
只要对话谈判仍在进行，半岛局势
Our past experience of resolving the nuclear issue on the peninsula shows that whenever dialogue and negotiation were going, the situation on the peninsula would maintain basic stability and efforts towards denuclearization could make progress. During the 5 years between 2003 and 2007, when the parties were engaged in dialogue and negotiation, 3 joint documents were adopted. In particular, the September 19th joint statement in 2005 set out the roadmap for the DPRK's abandonment of all nuclear programs and the realization of peace on the peninsula. Even today, the joint statement still carries major positive significance and has been reaffirmed and acknowledged by all DPRK-related resolutions of the Council. Since dialogue and negotiation came to a halt in 2008, the situation on the peninsula has gradually gone out of control, and the DPRK has accelerated its nuclear missile development process and successfully conducted 4 nuclear tests and dozens of missile launches. Therefore, we hope all parties could dedicate greater efforts to seeking a political settlement through dialogue and consultation as required by the Secret Council resolutions. Mr. President, China is not a focal point of the problem on the peninsula, and the key to solving the nuclear issue on the peninsula does not lie in the hands of the Chinese side. That said, as a close neighbor to the peninsula, and with a responsible attitude for peace and stability on the peninsula and in the region, China has over the years made unremitting efforts and played a unique role in promoting a negotiated solution of the issue. It is through China's efforts and the support of all parties that the 3-party talks on the peninsula nuclear issue was expanded to 6-party talks. Under the current circumstances, China is still prepared to work with all parties to make new contribution to the resolution of the nuclear issue on the peninsula. In view of the recent developments on the peninsula, China has put forward the proposal of suspension for suspension, which builds on the dual-track approach we proposed earlier. The dual-track approach aims to promote parallel progress in the denuclearization of the peninsula and the establishment of peace mechanism on the peninsula in a synchronized and reciprocal manner, ultimately achieving both goals together. The suspension for suspension proposal, which calls for the suspension of nuclear and missile activities by the DPRK and the suspension of large-scale military exercises by the US and the ROK, seeks to bring the 2 sides back to the negotiation table, thus initiating the first step of the dual-track approach, or rather the initial stage of this program. China's above-mentioned proposals have taken into consideration both the short-term and long-term goals and made them complementary to each other. While they are designed to address the most pressing concerns of the parties, they also pave the way towards denuclearization. They are consistent with the requirement of this Council resolutions and the fundamental interests of all parties, including the US and the DPRK. The proposals are objective, impartial, reasonable, and practical, and are gaining understanding and support from more and more countries. Of course, we also know that some countries may still have doubts of sorts. The point I want to make is the most urgent task now is to stop the DPRK's nuclear and missile development. To achieve this, it is necessary to put aside the debate over who should take the first step and stop arguing who is right and who is wrong. Rather, we should start from the low-hanging fruits, remove the flashpoints endangering peace on the peninsula, and create conditions for stability in the region. I also want to stress here that the state of affairs of the peninsula issue is not caused by any single party.
单独押给
nor is it realistic to ask any party alone to take up all the responsibilities for resolving the issue.
只有有
As
关
President
各
Xi
方
Jinping said,
都负起该
only
负责
with
任，
all relevant
相
parties
向而行，
shouldering their
才
due
能
responsibilities
尽快解决
and meeting each other halfway, will there be an early solution
我
to
们
the
呼吁各
issue
方
on the peninsula.
尤其是半岛
We
核问
call
题
upon
的
all
直接当
parties,
事方，
especially
也
those
就是
directly
朝鲜
concerned
和
on
美
the
方，
issue, namely the
展现对话诚
DPRK
意，
and the US,
重启对
to
话进程。
demonstrate sincerity for dialogue and
我们也期待
restart the
安理会
dialogue process.
为此形
We
成
also
进一步的
look
共
to
识
the Council
发出更
to
一致的
build
声音。
further consensus and speak
同
with
时
a more，
中
united
方也
voice.
愿意开放
In
的
the
态度
meantime,
听
China
取
will
各
be
方的
open
有
to
益的
all
建议，
useful proposals
只
from
要有利于
the
重启
parties.
对话谈判，
All ideas
有利于
conducive
实现
to
文化目
resuming
标，
dialogue and negotiation,
有利于维护半
achieving
岛和平稳定，
denuclearization
我
and
们都可以
maintaining
坐
peace
下
and
来一起
stability
讨
on the
论
peninsula
和商
can
量。
be explored in our discussion.